All right, welcome y'all to this week's episode of Ducking Reality, and I'm on location today with a repeat guest. This is actually going to be our third time sitting down on the mics. The first episode y'all heard a couple weeks ago, and the second episode got lost to the learning. But today I'm with Dr. Alandi Stec.
Hello, happy to be here with Siobhan.
Thank you. Welcome back to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me back. I love that it is our third chat together. We always have really good in that they are like deeply curious and expansive conversations. At least that's how I feel when I get to talk with you. There's just room to really do that, get curious and expand. And I think it was actually our first talk together that was the learning curve one. It was like so much good shares.
We did.
And then we had our second chat, and then that was the one that got to be recorded and then shared out. And now we get to meet for whatever's going to happen for today.
Yeah, because you have a lot of exciting things going on. We were just catching up and you were telling me about like your kind of long-term plans.
Yes.
And I also feel the same way chatting with you.
Yeah.
I learned so much because your knowledge and just the way that you move through the world is of like, I want more of your knowledge. I want to like learn how you move through the world and how you see things because it's in such a beautiful way. And I don't know if that's like a combination of the love of art that you have and the knowledge of that and then the knowledge of the body. Even now, we were just talking about stagnation and how that can lead to death. And your explanation of how the body is vibrating and everything is on a vibration down to the molecules and then back out is just like everyone needs to hear it.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel too. And my primary teacher is Dr. Rubin. So I'm a chiropractor, and a lot of chiropractic on the mainstream intake of chiropractic, like snap, crackle, pop, like the spine couldn't be further from what I do. And I say this because through my mentor, my chiropractor, Dr. Rubin, and his own curiosities of, I guess, like the nature of life, which is like the nature of reality, like what is the fundamental building blocks, so to say, of how life organizes, constructs, sustains, and destructs comes into or back into energy patterns, which, physics, quantum physics gives us a window into like, how are things doing the things that they're doing when you like really look closely at what's happening, like from the most macro to the tiniest, like microscopic thing you can observe, it's energy patterns. So but that's for sure where I've gained, or the thing that has like most deeply nourished my own curiosity of how life gets to take expression, take its shape, take its form, take its destruction, take its lifeness, like that's life, right? So, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's not because you have given me so many great books. Like, your knowledge
he is my
is
primary. Dr. Eric is my primary. For whatever reason, it's like, like different people will say things, and maybe it's even the same thing they're saying, but for whatever reason, when someone says it some way, you're like, wow, how this person communicates is like the portal through which I understand like the thing, right? So he has been, the way he communicates, expresses, visualizes the concepts. It's been a keystone thing for me. Another teacher who's been keystone for me is Christopher Hareesh Wallace. I refer to him as my meditation teacher. He's trained or highly studied Sanskrit scholar. So he teaches the Kashmir Shaivism, Tantra, Yoga, which is non-dual reality, which is the study of reality. So he gets
it's non-dual reality.
Yeah. So meaning that there's not, like, God is not separate from self. God is self, and God is described as the energetic impetus of what creates form, right? So the consciousness, which physics gets into that too. Quantum physics does. It's like consciousness. Another, I guess, teacher of mine, Nissimharmon, although not directly, but I've never met him. I look forward to one day meeting him. He's a quantum physicist. He is based in Mexico, and I just like engage with his podcasts, and he's been on podcasts. He doesn't have his own, and he has a website, Resonance Science, and he's another outlet that offers explanation on the energetic plane of like quantum physics, like how energy shapes matter, basically. Yeah. These are, I guess, the primary ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't even know, like, I am a huge believer in energy, and, you know, like you have done Reiki classes, and, you know, I dabble, but you are kind of in that world.
Yeah.
And I would not have thought in like learning about my kind of, when I started into this kind of wellness area and world, quantum physics was never even on my radar. And so when I talk to you, you bring it up a lot, and I'm always like, I have to learn more about quantum physics.
And I'm like, me too. Like,
but you seem so knowledgeable about it, and I'm like, I gotta figure out how to figure out
where do I tap into that quantum physics stuff? I know.
Especially because, like, for growing up in, like, you know, I had such cynical people around me where it was like, I'm like, no, energy is a real thing, and they, you know, they kind of like, all right, woo-woo stuff. But for you, talking to you always makes me feel even better about it, because you have so many hard science stuff that you relate it back to.
Right.
And because you have, you know, you're a doctor, so you have like this knowledge of the body, but then you can relate it into the metaphysical kind of world.
Yeah.
And I love that pairing, because I think it gives all of us like more of a leg to stand on when we talk about the energy and the consciousness, and how your perception is your reality, or how, you know, meditation and being quiet will help open your whole world.
Yeah. 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 So I know it's so crazy how like energy often gets like that woo-woo feel to it. And I think it's because maybe the way it's talked about in a lot of alternative practices, it doesn't get into maybe the depth of what it means, energy, like to be an energy system. But at the same time, in a very fundamental or very basic like lineup, like if we look at a body, a living body, so like yours and mine, versus a body that's not alive, therefore dead, declared dead, like there's something very different between a living human system that's expressing and animating like some part of self versus one where the body is now a corpse, and that thing that was illuminating that same body the moment before it clearly was not, like that there's something different in the energy system, right? So yeah, energy is real. It is like the foundation of our reality. It's the thing that is organizing all form. And quantum physics is the thing that gives us the window in to start to conceptualize how energy manifests beyond its like scintillating, like wave particle thing, you know? And the deeper window in actually, I think, is cymatics, the field of cymatics, which is the study of, I'm going to iterate myself, but it is the study of how energy, vibration, tone, which is speaking of the frequency of how a molecule is moving through space-time, how it is taking form. So in cymatics, for perhaps the listeners are like, what's that? To start to visualize it, they work with sound plates. And a sound plate is like a metal object that has like some sand on it. And then they connect with some type of cord, different tonal frequencies. So tone is, you can like, sound is an expression of tone. So different, you can like think about different like high pitch, low pitch, medium pitch, like all the different tones, and tones have different hertz that they, like the vibration of the sound. Sound is the movement of particles in space. So as they put this energy current through the sound plate takes different geometric forms in relation to different frequencies that are directed through the plate. It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's like these beautiful, like it starts to make sense of like, you know, if you think about the ancient yogis and like the Sri Yantra and all these like different, like, oh, how did they have this like visual pattern for like the heart chakra, and then the, you know, the seventh chakra that opens up to like divinity, right? Like pure, all pervasive consciousness. Like they map them out on these like grids, they're called, right? Like Sri Yantra is a grid of like all reality, space-time, and these sound plates start to open up the window to, okay, vibration is moving through space-time, like the field, it's called, like the space that we're animating. And it's influencing the structure, which is the organization of geometry, like, so what we're seeing. So geometry is shape, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of, say it's
Sound plate, cymatics.
Cymatics. I know with like I've seen the sound plate with the sand like dancing on it, and if you change
that's
I've seen it,
but you didn't know the word for it.
Yeah.
So this is cool too. So then we can think about, out of yoga traditions, and it's not just yoga, like different spiritual practices. There can be some type of chanting that's done. I'm more familiar with yoga. That's been a practice that has drawn my curiosity through the experiences that I've had with it. But so we'll just use that here as the example, but different mantra repetitions. And the mantra, the sound is like creating a vibration in your body, right? And so the mantra has this geometry to it, and then it's actually attuning the structure of the body. So structure, well, on the first most macroscopic level, we can think of like the muscles and the bones and the ligaments, tendons, which connect the muscle to the bone. We have a cardiovascular system, lymphatic system, organ system, circulatory system, blah, blah, blah. These like very more, these shapes of the body, which are visibly identifiable at like the eye level. And then when we put things under a microscope, we start to see cells, and then we can start to see inside the cells, the different cell organelles, so organs of the cell. And we start to look even deeper. You can start to see the energy current moving through the body, which becomes more conceptual, not visual on like a microscope, for example. But anyway, I'm saying this because the mantra starts to change, like the vibration of the mantra starts to change the organization of the body through harmonizing the structures, getting all the cells, all the energy currents at the deepest level to have the same tuning the body, bringing into harmony.
That makes so much sense.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And like because even in practicing, when I think about tuning, like getting my chakras in tune or like all of that, it's like, I know kind of in my brain, like what the pattern almost should look like.
Yes.
But I don't know how to transfer that into,
yes.
So knowing that you're kind of, it's like speaking to your body.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
those, it's
at the language of the body, which is the language of reality, which is vibration, which is frequency, which is tone. So tone has a geometrical shape to it because, again, cymatics, the study of cymatics gives us a window into how tone, which is easiestly accessible and understanding through sound. Like we often, tone, like, are you in tune? Is the sound of the guitar tuned? Is the voice tuned? Auto tune, like sound. We always think of sound as the way to interface the energy of tuning something. And so anyway, when we're chanting a mantra or even singing a song, although like songs often, not that they're bad or good, it's just they're not, like when we hear a good song, it's like, why do we like it? There's something in the vibration of the sound that is in alignment with our body, which is in alignment in some way that we've been thinking, perceiving, behaving, like experiencing ourselves. There's something in the song that is channeling some emotion that feels in alignment with maybe our being or what our being can connect into from some life experience. And then when we chant a mantra, there's like mantra science, which is mantra science is about taking a specific tone of something which has a specific, again, like geometry, a shape, and it's letting the body learn to vibrate at a higher level. So there's maybe you've heard of the guy in Japan doctor in Japan who has done the study on water.
Yes.
Marimoto.
I believe it's Marimoto.
That's
I believe that's it.
Yeah. So his study was on water and how it can crystallize in different crystallization patterns, which again, crystallization is a geometry, shape, pattern recognition. And the water was, some water got to hear like heavy metallic music and then like, sacred chants maybe out of a church and then maybe mantras and then others were blasted with like negative thoughts and others blasted with feelings of love. And the water had different patterns to it. And so can we start to quantify if something's like higher vibration or lower vibration? Because we're not speaking of the amplitude, wave amplitude of the energetic impulse that's moving through. Well, something that is, we'll just use the words higher vibration, lower vibration has to do with the complexity, the clarity of the complexity of the shape that's been organized. So mantras, to bring it back to that, the vibrational resonance of them have a higher complexity that can then help elevate the frequencies of the body, which plays a role in the body's ability to adapt, which means respond to everyday life stressors with ease and flow without feeling blocked and stuck and then depleted because it's overwhelmed and it can't.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
And it's like, have your own experience with this. Because that's ultimately, like, at the end of the day, like, words are just words, like ideas. But when you try something out and see the effect within your own being, like, that's what becomes true. It's like, was that true for me? Did that experience, like, how did that feel for me? Like, get inquisitive, self-inquiry, like, get curious about it and see. And if it's like, there is something in that mantra stuff. And, like, I noticed some things, but at the end of the day, it's not my yes for whatever reason. It's not the yes. There's like something that's not in rapport. Okay, like you don't have to do that thing. It's just a tool to use as a portal to start to experience the vast richness of possibility of living in a human body, of possibility being like broadening the bandwidth of what's possible to experience sensationally. Meaning when the body can experience more, when it has the ability to take in more like sense, and it doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, like I had this like crazy light show like flashing me. I could sense a lot. I don't mean like necessarily in that way. I mean, it's like a softer opening and expanding of like a consciousness that moves through the whole of the human system that gives a greater sense of awareness of the self that's being inhabited in the body, while also expanding beyond like the nodal point of container of like, I am in this like, this physical form.
Right. Yeah, because it kind of, in one of our conversations, we talked about how not getting stronger in my body made me stronger in my mind.
Yes.
And this is kind of like
from the other angle.
Getting stronger in your mind gets you stronger in your body.
Yes. I love that you said this, Siobhan, because the truth is, it's a feedback, right? Body, mind, body. And like consciousness is the link between the two. And there's different access points to experiencing the self, which is living in the human form. And the truth is, like, well, on one hand, like we need it all, because we're not just like consciousness like floating somewhere. We're actually consciousness inhabited in a body. And we're not just a body made of parts without a unique thinking that's enlivening it. If we were just the sum of our parts, then that would be true that this body that I'm living in now is the same when we declare it dead, but it's not, because there's something else animating it.
Right.
Because there's a distinct moment where it's like, oh, in me and my body as Alandi, like I'm clearly alive and animated now. And there will be a moment when Alandi has left.
Right.
True for each individual. There's a moment when we each leave. And so, yeah, there's a feedback mechanism that's happening. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite quotes is from Nissimharmon. Maybe he says his last name Haramin, I don't know. But it goes like this. Biology is the feedback mechanism for the universe to get to know itself. Biology is the feedback mechanism for the universe to get to know itself. So biology is like the life, animated life in an animal and a tree and a human. Like the thing that is living, a living system. Biology is the feedback mechanism for the universe to get to know itself. So the living in this body allows this body to learn more of itself. And so what are the ways we can, I love the word inhabit, like how can we live in this body? Well, we have biomechanical rules our body operates out of. So having a physical movement practice where we get to tap into the pushing, the pulling, the squatting, the pressing, moves helps us experience the very physicality of the form, right? And then again, we're not just the sum of our parts. So having other practices that allow our psyche, which is our consciousness, that thing that is directly perceiving and experiencing the self creates that other angle to experience what it can be to be alive. So that would fall under the category of maybe meditation or chanting or journaling or walking in nature or getting a chiropractic adjustment, or maybe even like a yoga practice that's working the mind into the body kind of approach. The feedback between the brain, the mind, the body, there's definitely a relationship that's at play there.
Yeah. And when you were just talking about like the, how you can, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Well, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about the first time they'd seen a dead body. And he was like, I was a kid and I was just like, oh yeah, he's not there anymore. It's just a body.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a real thing that like, I think some of us don't, either if you've never been with someone when they've passed or you've never seen someone right after they've died, it's a different, you see that they're not there. Like, even though you're looking at their body, there's something of them that's you just innately know is gone. And that's I don't think we kind of give enough credence to that, because we have so many practices, especially here in like our culture, like where we keep the dead body for all these other reasons, and we keep it out of nature, basically. And if you have someone in a cemetery, they're not going back into the kind of circle of life, which is an odd thing. And it's especially because they're not there anymore. Like wherever that spirit, that soul, that energy goes, like, it's not destroyed, because energy can't be destroyed. It's only moved. But you do know that it's no longer in that physical space. But I don't think we talk enough about that, or about like that special thing that makes us us.
That's really amazing point, because it really highlights how death is really removed from our life. It's a concept that kind of floats around and about, but there's no real interface with that. And much of we're speaking from the United States, right? Much of like Western world, I would say, like it's kind of like shunned and put to the side, and it's not really acknowledged in many ways.
Right.
And I agree that I think without, like, we need oppositions, the juxtapositions, I think offer a window into accessing appreciation for a moment. So I think, in not recognizing or having the opportunity to really experience loss, which death is the like ultimate point of a loss, right? It's like that is never coming back. It's complete. It's done. It creates this, maybe, I don't know if it's lack of appreciation for the life that's here, but maybe it loses some of the uniqueness of the moment, the preciousness of the now, because the now is ever changing, and there will be a moment where the now is no more. So it opens up a window to, it's like gratitude maybe is the window that gets opened up to be grateful for what is and have this appreciation for what is. And I think also in our culture, there's a lot of like I'm thinking of like all this like biohacking and like ways to and like biohacking is maybe more out of the alternative approach to life. It's like, yeah, how can you help your body live to like be 120?
Right.
With, not just like live to get there, but have a quality of life that can support you to getting there. Okay. But sometimes I think it's like taking to the approach of like, what can I do to not die? And that's the same tone as what I experienced the medical profession to do. It's like, oh, take all these pills, all this medication, this, that, to not die. How can we support the not death? And then in the moment, we really lose what does it mean to be alive? That makes me think of like a Nicki Minaj quote out of one of her songs, which I don't even remember what song this was out of, but she said her verse was, to live doesn't mean you're alive. Which is a different riff of what we're talking about with death, but kind of floats in the same proximity of, you can be alive and maybe doing all these things to not die, but are you actually living?
Right. Well, yeah, it's like when someone starts to get healthy and all they do is like, they're so strict about all their health stuff. Like, they're fasting.
The regime.
They're fasting and then they're eating like this and that, and that's it. And it's like, okay, and we want you to be healthy, but like, are you having joy in that? Are you actually enjoying the healthy food that you're eating, or are you just like shoving stuff in your face because you know it's healthy and like supposedly it's going to give me this long, longevity.
Yeah.
And then they get so rigid that they end up not enjoying it, and so they fall off of it. And it's like, you got to find that balance of what's healthy for you, and like some of those biohacking things are helpful, but you have to keep your quality of life, because otherwise it's the same as someone that never does any exercise and like are not doing anything but eating unhealthy, and they're not moving.
Yeah, it's just the other polarity of it.
Yeah, it's like either way, you got to get into that middle realm where you're enjoying your life, but you're also doing the things that are healthy for you, as well as like maybe some things that aren't.
Totally. And when you speak about having like a regime or like a regimented practice, it makes me think of one of my favorite quotes by Pablo Picasso, which is, learn the rules like a master, so you can break them like an artist. So it speaks to this, like, okay, rule this, rule that, following this routine, da 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 da. There is great value in learning steps along the way, or learning the steps that other people have done to produce a certain response. But once they become dogmatic, then the life expression of what's true for you is totally lost.
Right.
So sometimes it can be very beneficial to follow specificity in the rule of the path. But if you only stay on that, it's like you miss the memo. Like, you're learning the black and white rule, I guess, so that you can then, well, hopefully maybe like learn more deeply what's true for you.
Right.
Like, what did you learn from that routine that was very regimented and step by step, and what is true for your unique form? Because we have countless variables that have gone into our life that have made us who we are in this exact moment. Countless. Like, you can't even add them all up. When you even start to think about it, it gets like infinitely overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you find the balance? Because you are such like a calming presence. You're like a light. You have, your practice. You have your personal life. I can tell, always getting yourself more educated on things.
Yeah.
So how do you balance it? How do you find, like, what's kind of your way of keeping yourself in a regiment? Because I'm sure you have one.
Right.
But not stuck to it, where you kind of, because sometimes when I fall off my like daily practices, I'll beat myself up for it. And then like I'm spending more time being upset with myself for not sticking to all of my practices, instead of just kind of moving through it and accepting it.
I think the removal of a thing is just as important as the introduction of a thing, because it gives feedback for the place of doing that thing. It like adds the context for, and that is why I do this practice regularly. Like, when you take something out, there's an opportunity to reassess the value that thing had in your life, or not value. It offers the moment of, like, when the pattern's been interrupted, it offers a moment to see what effect that pattern thing was having in your experience of whatever you're defining as the experience, right? So I guess you asked the question, like, how do I find the balance? And for me, I've developed my own self-practice is inquiry of, like, what things are feeling a constructive force in my life. Meaning, like, where is there creation? Where is there, like, energy rich? Like, where does it feel like when I think of energy rich, it feels like creative, like something is coming, there's a becoming, there's a mobilization, there's a happening. So I tune into, like, the constructive force nature of whatever a thing is. And then I also am checking in on, like, does this thing, whatever thing is, feel deeply nourishing? Does it feel energy rich? Does it feel like, what is the effect of that thing in my energy system? And when I say energy system, it's like a feeling when you, like, tune into your body. Like, does that feel like it serves me? Does that feel deeply nourishing? Like, for people who are listening that are maybe it's like hard to grasp really what I'm saying. It's, like when in the same way, like, your name, like my name is, I am Alandi. And if I am tuning into how my body feels, like there's a certain like resonance, like some people call it a tell sign. And if I'm to say my name is, I am Shaban, like you just kind of tune into how it feels. And it's like, when I say that, I'm like, no, that's not my yet. No, because I've never been called Shaban in my life.
Right.
I've only ever been called Alandi, So I tune in on that level, just like check in, like, how does this feel? And then the practices that have become staples, I guess, in my life, because I continue to check in and ask myself, like, does this feel like the thing to do? And some of that has been developed from formal practices of like contained space of, I'm going to dive into, like, for example, like this meditation thing. Let me like see what this is about in the formal practice of how it's being taught by this teacher in this way. And like, let me, like, how do I make this my own? How do I, like, what is my way with this? And there is, for the context of meditation, there was I don't know, it feels like many years, I was using the meditation recordings from my teacher as given to me in the sanctioned time that I was in the specific duration of meditation class, like many mornings spent like with those meditation recordings, and sometimes twice a day. And then at a certain point, it just organically showed up for me. And me is like that. I don't think I need that recording anymore. I'm just going to have my own sit with myself without being guided into the sit.
Right.
It's like, where did that come from? That idea. Learn the rules like a master so you can break them like an artist. Like, I wasn't trying to break a rule. It was more like I was self-discovering what felt, it like naturally became inspired that this is my way now to connect with this teaching. And then other things like formal practices, like I love CrossFit, like it's a very physical body practice, and like movement practice. Maybe we should start there. Like having a movement practice in my life has been a staple for many years of my life. And it has looked different in different periods of my life for different curiosities that have taken me into different avenues, which now and today it looks like CrossFit. And I'm like so excited about CrossFit for the different like biomechanical moves that it offers in form of like cardiovascular challenge. Like that's exciting for me in my body for what has seemed to be like 5 years. And I don't see an end to that. But like, at some point, if that starts to feel different, then, well, you're always reassessing, I think, in life, like reevaluating, not over analytically, but certain points when it starts to feel like things are stagnant, it's usually an indicator that the body needs more feedback. Biology is the feedback mechanism for the universe to get to know itself. So when something starts to feel stagnant, the body, mind, spirit that's experiencing those things, it's looking for something new to interface because the current way things are going has reached its endpoint of what is there to be offered in that exact way. And maybe it's just like a little tweak, like you need to have, a different coffee in the morning, or like a different breakfast, or you need to just have a different something else in your day from the current arrangement of like the 1, 2, 3 that you're doing, to add the spice of life, the difference, like to add new information for the system to learn from. I don't know if that really gets after the question, but that's where my mind goes with it.
Well, yeah, because do you have like do you have a regimen
what
that
it
you
looks
stick
like
to? Or
yeah.
do you?
Right now I do. Yeah. Well, it looks different from time to time. And there is one that seems to be true for, since maybe like 2016-ish, maybe a little bit before then. So for me, I've come to discover that having a morning meditation is the way that feels most appropriate for me to start my day. I sit for my meditation 24 minutes because I had learned that is one pranic revolution, so life force energy system revolution of the body. We have different energy revolutions in our body. So example, like our breath has like about 12 inhale to exhales per minute. Our heart beats about like 72 beats average per minute. Our CSF has a rhythm of circulating through it. I think it's like 8 expansion, contraction phases per minute. And another phase in our body is our energy system circulation, which is the pranic energy. And that is described as being 24 minutes. And, you know, in my experience, that has shown to be true. And why do I say that? Well, I like set a timer when I first started practicing in this way for 24 minutes. And at first it's like, okay, you're like kind of like doing the behavioral rhythm of like, okay, I've been told this thing. And, you know, my meditation teacher who explained this, it made sense to me. So I was like, let me try it out, you know, and then you try something out, you see how it goes. And then it did feel true for me after enough times I sat and meditated. My body started to become aware, not from an intellectual place that it had been, like the energy system had been recycled. It was from a different point of awareness. Like we have our analytical mind that's often louder and more like chatty and like active and like wanting to comment. And then there's a different like level of consciousness that doesn't really use like words to communicate. It communicates really through feeling, which is sensational. Like to feel is like it's not like you're touching, although that is a form of feeling. It's like, you know, when you can feel you're too hot, so you take your jacket off. When you feel you're too cold, you're like, I think it's time for my jacket. Or at a certain moment, you're like, well, I think I got to close my eyes and go to sleep. Like it happens before the level of like word activation to explain like the thing that's happening. It comes as a sense. And that felt true for me, that sitting for that period. And so anyway, so I sit for about 24 minutes in the morning, and I have, you know, I usually start my meditation practice with like a little mind focusing, I guess you would call that prayer, like a few little words I do to get it's like my mind is now aligning to the task it's about to do. And then my body opens up into the experience. And it's called like an open meditation. It's where I'm just observing the natural things that are happening. For me, my experience is very energetic in nature, and it must be from the different visualization practices I've done from meditation work. I don't know, but that's just how it comes through. So that is a staple in my morning routine. And then there's times when that gets, you know, not presented. Like I just went to the mountains for 4 days. I didn't meditate during my trip there. It wasn't in the flow of, you know, the people I was with. It just didn't make sense really to have that type of quiet moment in the way that I pattern it in my normal life rhythm. And I'm okay with that because it offers me a perspective of what it feels like when I do and I don't do that practice, and the value that I experience from doing that practice. And it's like just informative. And so, okay, great. But in my normal life pattern, yeah, so like breakfast or meditating in the morning, and then little breakfast. And then I love to work out in the morning because that's when it feels most energizing in my body to give my energy and that intensity first. Right. It's a way for like my mind to feel in with like the space that it's living in, like the physical body. So for me, it's actually another form of meditation, I guess, but from a very activated place. Like I'm using my mind to drive physical movement in my form. And my current practice is CrossFit. I love it. It's an incredible challenge that just like keeps me hungry for more. And to me, it also feels very playful because there's community there and there's camaraderie there. And like the workouts feel like a game to me. Like today we did something called an AMRAP, as many rounds as possible. We had 2 movements and a time that was sanctioned to do these movements on repeat. And it's like, how many can you get? Right. And to me, why is that fun? I couldn't explain it, but my body feels joy when it's able to move. Like it feels good to move. So that. And then, I eat something after I have my CrossFit class, and then I'm ready for my day. I'm ready to give. Now that I've fully, for me, it's like I pour into me first, and then I'm able to give out. And I was told by one of my teachers, like the first time I heard this metaphor, which I'm about to share, it's like one of those like, oh yeah. And it's exactly that, give first before you give out. And the metaphor was the heart, which is responsible for the contracting of, pulsing the blood like through the whole circulatory system to feed and nourish all the cells in the body. Even the heart feeds itself first before it gives out to the rest of the body. One of its first arteries, like right off of the aorta, goes right back into the heart. So it gives itself first resource before it gives the rest of the body resource. And perhaps the more common like metaphor we all heard is like, put your mask on first. When you're on an airplane, it's like, put yours on first and then help your neighbor. It's like, yeah, you first. And when you're taken care of, everyone's taken care of. And like another one that comes to mind, I think this was some comedian who said this, and his share was, I don't remember exactly the bigger point of his share, but the part that stuck was like, how do you help the homeless? Like, you make sure you don't become one of them. Like, take care of you first, and then you can go beyond yourself. Like, another rendition of that is practice what you preach. Like, do you first, and then if somebody needs help, help them. So my first half of my morning or my day is spent on the me things because it connects me deeply into like the subtle parts of myself with my morning meditation practice, and then the more like gross part of myself with like the bigger movement patterns of like physical expression that CrossFit gives me. And then, I nourish myself with some food, and then I'm like ready to see my people being the clients in my office for my chiropractic work. And I, the way my day is structured now, I work from like, noonish 1 to like 8ish at night. And like, that feels really good.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think, because what you're saying too, or what I'm hearing from you is that one, you like yourself. Like, yeah. And it sounds kind of funny, but thinking about that and like thinking about the fact that you take enough time to give yourself all the things that you need, I think that's what I've been missing. Like, not that I don't, I hadn't liked myself for a long time. Yeah. And I was in spots where no wonder I didn't like myself. I wasn't doing anything. I was really stagnant. And so to kind of give myself that time felt selfish in a way that it's not. It's just giving yourself what, because if someone I loved, like if you were in my house and you needed all those things, I would make sure you got them all. Yeah. To make sure you were taken care of. But to not turn that on to myself is silly.
Yeah. Yeah. I had like one of my sister's friends once said something about selfish. It's being full of self. And like, it's a very positive, like if you're not with yourself, who are you with? Like, you have to be full of yourself. Don't be full of yourself. Like you're all hot and heated, but like you have to like deeply rooted in yourself. And like, what are the things that help connect you to you? And yeah, I mean, that's just, it takes one to know one. So I also know for myself too, that there were parts of my own self I didn't like. And there's still parts of myself I'm ever working on. I don't like that expression, but curious about, to see like, oh yeah, like what's up with that thing? Like whatever name thing is, right. Like curious about it, and like, okay, like what's the work to do there? And I think for me, it's like the joy is in, it's like the consciousness, and the consciousness is the ability to like sense, perceive, receive, connect with whatever the experience is. And the experience first lives in you. And in fact, the experience is only in you. Like, you will never actually know what someone is fully thinking or feeling because you're not in their body.
Right.
You can tune into them from your body, but at the end of the day, you're only ever living in your body. And then I guess the question would then be, if you're not living in your body, where are you living? And are you actually living there? So like, come back in here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's a good way to kind of help people understand why they need to do all the things. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't have to do 24 minutes if that's not what feels right for you. But to say like, all right, but you should be doing some of these things for yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's even like, it's like, I don't know if someone should be doing something, and I'm not criticizing that word choice. It's more like to open it back up, like, oh, if you're curious, because it's more open-ended and invitation, because not everyone has a curiosity to maybe deeply and richly connect into what it can mean or be to be in a body. And like, even that isn't like, quote, defined, right? It's very open-ended for interpretation. Like, there's many people who aren't interested in operating at that level of depth, and okay, but if you are, then if the curiosity is there, like, oh yeah, what might that feel like or be like to like feel more myself, or live in, like, what does it and what would that mean to live in my body? And I am noticing that maybe I don't really like myself, because I'm starting to notice my dialogue as I maybe I'm projecting things on other people. Then that's an invitation to like, oh, well, here are some tools that can help like ignite your awareness of what it means to be in you as you, and for the uniqueness that is you, and like, who are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think so many people aren't, it goes back to that, are you living or are you alive?
Yeah.
So many people are alive, but they're not living.
Yeah.
Because they're not in their own body.
Yeah.
Because they're not present. And they're so distracted because I was just thinking about myself, like 2 years ago, would I have sat for 20 minutes in silence in my own brain? Yeah. And I wouldn't have. I didn't. Like, that was a scary kind of place to me, because that self-talk, because of that narrative that I was kind of living in, or not living, but existing in, was not healthy for me. It wasn't healthy for kind of almost anyone really to be in. And slowly learning all these practices, meeting people like you, and having that curiosity has really helped change my whole life. And like, I vibrate differently than I used to.
Absolutely.
And I've had moments where in meditations or in moments of like working on all of this, where I've even said to myself, like, okay, that is now over and you're going to vibrate at a different level. And it goes back into that, like, being comfortable. And I know we can't say people should be, or you won't. And sometimes I should all over myself, which is, I'm trying to get out of the practice of that. But I encourage people to be open and to take some of these steps to learn some of this, because it's such a minimal kind of investment and a huge return. Like, to learn to meditate or to learn a movement practice. And it doesn't have to be CrossFit. I don't do CrossFit. I tried. My body is not, I'm not into the high impact stuff. I'm a more low impact kind of person. I'm into the water and the walking and yoga and Pilates. But like, having those moments has totally reshaped my life. And
I think you said it so beautifully. Like, this wasn't your word. I can't remember the exact word you used, but whatever you said made me feel like the invitation, there's a beautiful invitation to get curious, because there is potential there to dramatically shift one's own experience to the way the life is being experienced and expressed. Mm-hmm. Because the way you were speaking of like this inner critic, like, we all have a voice that's talking to us. I do too. I'm just better at telling it to shut up. Or like, okay, well, I don't want to say, I don't better. Like, I do feel better in my life where I came from, to what I knew was my experience in my own inner dialogue to where it is now. I am better at, you can go over there, like, stop talking. I'm not listening to you. Or it's just like, it's there. And then like, and all this other stuff is happening too. That's actually like more worth my while than hearing that voice be so mean to myself.
But it kind of encourages me that you have that voice too. Like, because I would expect that you've trained that voice to just be positive.
It still talks for sure. Just not as loud as it once did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a practice. It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
It is. And I think it's difficult to like get started almost. But once you get started, I feel like things then just come to you.
And then it's almost like you can't stop, because there's so much growth that gets experienced and woken up, and like, there's this like feeling good. But why does it feel good? Because there's something that feels extremely freeing once these other like limiting thoughts, because like a critical voice is a limitation, right? Like when these limiting thoughts just get totally sometimes like just like destroyed in a positive way, because they get like obliterated in a way that opens up a liberation, opens up a freedom of being in your own self. It's like, well, wow, like I can just like be, and like the being feels like nice. Why does it feel nice? Because there's like no like limiting forces that are like coming down on it. There's just like pure existing that feels expanding and just there and like softly just experiencing itself. And so yeah, like these types of practices help open the portal to being more free, I guess, in experience.
Yeah. Do you think that your movement practice, because you do something that's kind of so hard, do you think that that makes the rest of your day easier too?
I'm sure there's part of that too. You got to get out the wiggles, right? Like little kids know that. You got to get out the wiggles, let them go. Then you're like, oh yeah, now I can just kind of like, simmer. For sure.
Yeah. Because I know even on like a day that I'm not going to, like on a day where I'm like, all right, it's this Sunday, I'm going to be lazy or whatever, I will still go for my walk, because then it makes the rest of my kind of lazy day more enjoyable.
Yeah, because the body the body wants to move. It's designed to move. It's a living energy system. Living because it's in response to the environment, the things that are coming into it. Like food is a very basic example of that. You eat a burrito and somehow it's in you, and like what happens? Well, it becomes the cells of your body, and then you eliminate the things that were not needed. Like the burrito's gone. It's like a magic show. Now you see it, now you don't, right? Like our body is in constant exchange with its environment, and it is an energy system that is moving. And so when we put like physical movement into it, it's allowing the body to actualize its potential, meaning it's designed for that. So it does feel good to move.
Yeah. But and it doesn't have to, like you do the CrossFit, which is awesome. I do less impact. Like,
yes, Yes.
And
yes.
It's just the movement.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
I totally agree with that.
And I think it's finding what works for your body.
Exactly. It's different person to person, and it doesn't matter. Like one person does Pilates and says that's the best workout of their life. They love it. And the other person does CrossFit, and another person does Zumba, and another person is like a mountaineer, like summiting Everest or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what the thing is. What matters is finding the thing that is true for you. And it's like, how do you know if it's true for you? Well, somewhere in you, it feels like deeply nourishing, and it feels like there's a joy. There's a really rich joy that is just giving like do that thing. Like the body is always informing us of what it needs, what it wants. And the way it does that is through the feeling that is elicited, which is below the level of conscious thought. Like one of my teachers has said, and this is actually out of quantum physics, primary order of reality is experiential. Secondary order of reality is conceptual. So the experience is first. The experience comes in the form of sensation, which is feeling. So like it's the experience is the feeling sensation that's being picked up on by the body. And then once it's been like really felt, then we can use words to start to describe what's there. Words don't just exist inherently. Like they are there as a tool to communicate something that's being experienced, right? Something that's being sensed, something that's being felt, something that's being, those are the best words that I have: experienced, sensed, and then felt. And the words are the template that go over that to then communicate concepts, ideas, right? But those things aren't inherently existing. Like a word doesn't inherently exist, right? It's there to convey an idea, which is expressing a feeling. So,
yeah. Do you have, like, when someone comes into your office that hasn't done the work yet, is there something that you kind of give them to help guide them into some of these practices, or like to get them to learn how to check in with themselves?
So that's such an interesting question, because when people come to me in my office, I'm holding a potential of what's possible, meaning like expanding the awareness, like my work, I aspire to expand the awareness that is inherent in each individual so that they can sense and perceive and have more capacity for life. When people come in my office, I meet them where they're at. So some people, I'm a chiropractor, 90% of chiropractic visits, like this is a stat out there in the profession, is for low back pain. So there's people who come in that are just in pain and maybe their belief system has no room for quantum physics, energy stuff. So, okay, like we're not going to talk about that because it's just not where they're at. They are, in intense low back pain and they need their sacrum addressed or something, like they need the pain. They need to start to connect in with their pain and know that it's safe to feel their pain.
It's a hard thing to...
Pain is hard because it's uncomfortable. And pain is information. Like it didn't just arise because like something happened that created that response in the body. And so oftentimes the pain can exist, even when it's a physical impact, like, hit off someone's riding their bike and they got hit on their bike, or a motor vehicle accident. Like these happen all the time. Impacts in the system, right? System being the body. And it can be excruciating pain. And that moment is, well, what else do I want to say about that? What matters is connecting with the individual where they're at so that they can start to feel what is actually true for them in that current moment. And in that moment, it might explicitly be only about the pain in the pinpointed spot where they walked into the office showing me exactly where it hurts. And maybe then also just starting to like connect the lines of like, oh, that's so interesting. Like it's here, but can you feel how that's actually connecting over here? There's like some relationship between these two distant regions in the body. So maybe that impact went directly into this spot in your hip, but somehow it's also connecting over here in the shoulder. And like, as we start to connect into the sacrum and the clavicle over here, like, can you start to feel how they're playing off of each other when we like come a little left and go a little bit right? So I start to try to broaden the awareness of the thing that's like the pinpoint name thing of why they're in, and like, hey, like it's not just here, it's actually also here. And like, yeah, like you can feel how this, maybe the sacrum feels like it's a little kick to the back and dunked over to one side. And yeah, we can feel that together. And can you, like, we start to tune into it beyond just the sacrum, just start to feel in a little bit. And can you like start to like feel into the region just beneath my hand here that's just over the sacrum, but sinking deeper into it. It's like, oh yeah, like it's a different, like softer, almost like a whisper kind of feel, and like little energetic currents maybe moving through the body. So yeah, you can feel like a very physical part, the sacrum, but also there's like something there that doesn't seem like it's just the sacrum, but it's in the sacrum and it moves beyond the sacrum. So little windows of that and. Yes and.
So you kind of meet them where they're at and slowly kind of guide them into opening up. And then do you just, from how well they're opening, do you just kind of add in more of that?
Yeah. I let them lead the way.
Yeah.
And I put little like droplets here, and then I see maybe what they'll do with it. And then it's like, oh, okay, let's start to expand. It's just like, if you're in the gym, I'm working on my Olympic lifting more in my CrossFit gym. And so Olympic lifting is, clean and jerk and snatch. So if someone's new to snatch to Olympic lifting, like you're not going to put the bar plus like 45s on either side if they've never lifted a snatch before. You're probably just going to start with a trainer bar and even maybe just a PVC pipe. Like you're not going to like take them to like somewhere they can't go if they can't go there. Like you just start where you are, and that's the place to start. And I think, it's helpful to work with somebody who can see the potential of what more, because then you're not being limited by just this, whatever, whatever the content is of what more, So yeah.
Yeah. Because I, like in my brain, everyone like appointment looks like mine would.
Yeah.
And like, because how would
no,
they
it
not?
doesn't. Yeah.
Because
No.
I'm like, why would you see you and know that you have all this knowledge and not try to get as much out of you?
But
as
that's actually really awesome that you brought that up, because it demonstrates the exact point. Like you are curious for the grandiose more, and like also wanting to like get to the source of like, yeah, but I know it's not just this, it's like the energy thing, so we can go there.
Yeah.
Like, because it's who you are and what you're curious about. And I am curious about those things too. And I have knowledge in those things, so we can go there.
Right.
Yeah, not everybody is there. So we don't. Like some of my clients and much of my work, which as one of my clients, like I work very quiet.
Yes.
I pretty much don't talk. Most of my visits with most of my people are like that. And there's some clients where if I didn't say a word, they'd be like going ape shit. Like they're like uncomfortable. Like, what is happening in here? Like I need some
Right.
sound on, please, even though there's like music playing, So I like some of my clients it's more or less because more of my nature and the way people meet me, just because I guess we fall into that rhythm of quiet. But there's a little percentage in my office where it's like, okay, we're kind of joking around, talking about this, shooting shit or whatever,
Right.
and like trying to get the work in, and trying to like open the little windows of like, one of my clients, he calls it the matrix zone, I think is what he calls it. He's like, oh, you went all matrix on me, and he's one of my clients where we are primarily joking back and forth together, and then he's like, oh, you just went into the matrix zone.
Do you think when someone has to keep talking, is it because they kind of don't want to be alone with themselves?
Yeah, that is a feature for some people.
Yeah.
They don't know. They don't have the skill because it's not a criticism, right? Like it's okay if that's where they are, but there is also truth in that can be indicative of a system that is on more edge, and so hyper alert, and more in the sympathetic tone of the nervous system, which is that fight or flight, on, go, which then means their body's not able to access that deep restorative state of the parasympathetics. It doesn't have the ability to toggle from, yes, we need things to be on, and sometimes we need to be able to go. And sometimes we need to like run away from the thing that's in danger or respond to the thing that's life-threatening. Like we need that response. It's in our body for a reason. We need to use it. And we also need to be able to rest, digest, replenish, restore, let the body have an opportunity to take care of itself at a deep cellular level so that we can then do that other thing and whatever's in between. So sometimes clients who are needing to have more communication about whatever, express, it's because their mind is very active and it doesn't know how to quiet to access that deeper state that's possible in the body. Deeper state being like a deep repose where the body can a higher parasympathetic tone, which is also associated with heart rate variability, which is like a very popular, it's not catchphrase, but topic.
Right.
It's like, what's your Whoop watch, Aura ring, like these tools give metrics for like, oh, what's your HRV, which is informing the body of its ability to toggle between the stress ranges by giving the parasympathetic heart rate variability is directly linked to parasympathetic tone. And when it's higher, that means you're able to like toggle between the two in ranges of these like stress and like relaxed states. When it's higher, it means your body's able to adapt to stress better, because it's able to toggle back and forth between these two in ranges. Being able to adapt is one of the, I think it's like the WHO describes health as one's ability to adapt. So being able to adapt to life circumstances, like change, shapeshift, respond. Like response is the sign of health. So yeah, we want to be able to toggle between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And sometimes when clients are needing to chat more, it's because their mind doesn't know how to silence and connect in, which iterating myself a few times here, but that is related to lower parasympathetic tone, which is then related to a lower ability to adapt, which is indicative of lower health.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, I can think about that in like my own life when I've just been like running from one thing to the next, and not really stopping and not really taking breaks in between them, and like doing it almost to avoid having to sit with myself. Like, and I know that those times, like when I look back at like either the journals that I had, even though like I might not have been doing all of it, like I can see like, okay, well that's because this was going on in my life and I didn't want to have to think about this one little thing. So if I am always in all of these other things, then I don't have time to even think about it. Or even though it's just, it can sneak up on you when you're driving in the car, you know, those moments where it's like, all right, turn the radio up or turn this on, or like I need to give my attention to this thing now because that thing's starting to creep back up.
Oh man. Yeah. It's like what we resist persists, like we have to. There is great benefit in slowing down and connecting in with the things that aren't comfortable to connect in with, because those things are it's like, why? Because ultimately those things create a limitation. And the limitation is exactly that. It's limiting. It's putting a barrier, which is putting a restriction, which is like suffocating and like depleting because you like can't express and be, and like there's no freedom to choose to express as your inner will is desiring or desirous of. So that's the benefit to like the introspectiveness, doing the things that allow us to quiet or like collect, integrate, like come back together and bring back those fragmented parts, digest them, learn from them, and that's how we evolve past them. And in that process, somehow these like patterns or this like these these things that have been constricting us, which are creating these like it's almost like these it's like we break out of a pattern that was allowing us or creating us to operate in one way, and now once we like shatter that pattern, we've totally dissipated whatever those like forced bonds that were holding us into that way of being. We can just be more free. Like I know you've experienced. That's how it feels for me. It's like, oh, I'm more like there's more freedom, and freedom is ease. Oh my gosh, it's like, and I can, and that's empowering, and there's a joy in being self-empowered, because you realize. For me, it's like realize like how much power is like I don't know. There's something like energizing about that, and like self-ownership too. It's like, oh, wow, like I can't, like I am capable. I don't know. That feels pretty good.
Yeah, it feels really, before we started recording, we were talking about that. And I was saying how I have, with all of the work that I've done in the last, really 3 years too, is where a lot of the changes for me have happened, is being more confident in myself. And like, I have practices that I do daily that I'm not perfect at them by any means, but I'm getting less like beating myself up when I don't do them. And I'm getting more like accepting of like, okay, well, today was a different kind of day. And kind of sometimes your voice sneaks into my head all the time on like the perception, like, okay, but what else can I learn from this situation? Or what other site can I kind of see it from? Or, like I re-listened to our episode and my phone was stolen, and I, that day that you said to me, like, what was going on that phone? And I've kind of taken, if someone hasn't listened, I was telling her in our last conversation about how my phone had gotten stolen and I was frustrated, and you were like, well, what was going on that phone that needed to stop? And it was just taking that moment to kind of be like, oh, yeah. And then, so now I kind of do that to a lot of things. When something doesn't happen, my first reaction, I kind of go like, all right, but what else could it be? Yeah. Like it's the and. I think about like the ampersand. It's like that and, okay, this is a finite, definite thing that whatever the thing was that happened, like that happened. And like infinitely more happened just than that. Yeah. And I love that, like and, because it's not, we often talk about changing our perspective, and you don't really have to change it. It's like adjusting it. Yes. Yeah. It's like that perspective gets to exist. It is existing because it happened. Like it came through. And there's infinite things beyond just that thing. Right.
broadening the perspective, broadening the field of what's possible, which also doesn't mean like negate what's actually happening. Like it's important to acknowledge the response as wanting to come through first is like the reaction, and then checking in and like noticing what else, like what is here that I haven't seen before. Because sometimes there's experiences in life where it's like, man, I just keep coming back to that same thing, that whatever like experience happened, that's just like, like things in life will remind you about that same experience over and over and over again. And maybe it comes through in your inner movie screen, and it's like a little different than the time before. And it's like, okay, what is here for me to see that I haven't seen yet? What haven't I seen yet with this experience? Like, what more is there? Like, what? Because it's the psyche is like bringing it forward for a reason. There's like something to grow from, some morsel of something to take from that moment, and it'll get replayed until the fullness of whatever learning was there for you has fully arrived into form.
Yeah.
And in Eastern traditions, they call this a samskara, a lasting impression. In chiropractic, subluxation. Oh. So a lasting impression that got stored somewhere in the body. Eastern philosophy, samskara, they're taking more into account the pure energetic nature within whatever that thing that got lastly impressed upon within you. Chiropractic, subluxation, interference in the body. So it's looking at it more from how did it physically become represented or represented in the body. So maybe that's why, the low back was actually out, because something, oh yeah, my back's been hurting for like years. It's like, oh, tell me more about that. Like, what have you noticed about your back hurting? What was your first memory of your back hurting? Like, what was going on in your life at that time? And sometimes, people, it's like we don't even realize what's been impressed in our psyche and in our body, which they live together. They're not separate. We're not just like consciousness floating in a bubble somewhere. Like the consciousness is in the human form, other sentient forms too, but we're human here. So got to watch out for AI though.
Oh yeah. That's scary.
Yeah. They're not fully here yet, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good, because when someone, and you mentioned it earlier, because I deal with chronic pain, so I'm in pain all the time. And where I was, say, 3 or even 5 years ago to where I am now, 5 years ago, I would have never known I could be this, because that pain was all consuming and overwhelming. And part of it, like one of the doctors I remember saying something to me about like, well, fix everything else in your life and this won't seem so bad. And I was like, fuck you. Kind of like, but also,
yeah, because
he's right.
Right. And I think what was maybe missing in that moment is there was not an acknowledgement for I'm actually in pain right now. It was totally like undermined. It's
right.
Like, yeah, but if you fix everything else, you wouldn't be in pain. It's like, okay, yeah, and I'm coming to you because I'm in pain. I hurt. Can you acknowledge that those words left my mouth? No.
And like fixing a bunch of the other stuff in my life, it doesn't make my pain go away, but it makes it more easy to live with. Like, because my bandwidth for things is so small for some things. Like for bullshit, I just don't have it. Like I know I don't. Like I don't have.
The line is, that's good.
Like
we have to know our boundaries. Don't cross that one.
Yeah, like if you're gonna come at me with all kinds of bullshit, like I just can't. I don't have I'm like trying to do all my other things in my life, so like to deal with you and your drama.
I have a no tolerance policy, and that is not tolerated.
Yeah, like I don't keep those people in my life, and I don't have the extra energy, but I can't imagine like I had to fix the shit in my life in order for my physical to kind of get better, and then the more physical I got, the more mentally kind of fit I felt. So it's like that hand in hand kind of thing, but it's scary, and it feels really insulting when someone says to you, like, well, go into your pain and feel your pain and figure out what like emotionally things can be causing to your pain. Cause you're like, no, physically I'm in pain, and you can see why I'm physically in pain. Like you have that right there. So fix that. Mm-hmm. But there's only so much you can fix.
Yeah. So I think that goes back to meeting people where they're at and meaning I'm exactly there. So yeah, if someone's in excruciating pain, it's not always time in that moment to talk more about, like, to fully talk about like the behavioral things and the mind space things that have contributed to that.
Right.
It's a delicate
balance.
Yeah. And it takes, when you're working with someone as a practitioner, it takes a clear practitioner to be able to sense what is the true need of the moment, because that's the thing that actually needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
It's like, address what is needed. So what is needed? And in my experience, in my opinion, through my experience, like, the clarity within the practitioner is directly related to the clarity that the practitioner can bring to who they're working with. So it's important, if you are somebody who's trying to guide others on whatever the named path is, that you're clear within yourself of not, projecting, not taking bias, not trying to dominate what you think should be happening when such and such comes in. Like, yeah, it's like a very graceful dance in my work. For me, this is also part of why I do all these practices that help me connect into what's truly me and my body and my relationship to my body, so that I don't get that confused when I'm working with somebody else. I have clear boundaries on that. And it's an ever-going practice that's it hasn't reached an endpoint of like, oh, I'm there. It keeps expanding into more depth of awareness of what is. I mean, it all sounds vague, but I think if you're in the realm of practicing like consciousness practices, it does make sense that there's no like defined endpoint of like, now you are. It's like, actually, like, the now just ever bottoms out to like more presence and more awareness of what, like, there's so many subtleties that are communicated that are not with words. Like, I don't remember the number, but people listening, you can look this up on Google. We need like, on those different podcasts, we have like the person who's like, look, like Joe Rogan, look that up, Jamie. Yeah. We need Jamie. Look at this up. Like, how much percentage of communication is nonverbal? It's either like, is it 90%? Like,
it's a lot.
It's like way more than half, whatever it is. It's like, basically communication is nonverbal. It's not the literal words that are coming out. It's how our body is expressing those words, which is through tone, which is the sound, the pitch of the voice, the facial expressions, and the way the body's being carried in expressing the words. So like for me in my practice, when I'm working with people, I'm using many more cues than the literal word to pick up on what is the need. Like, why is this person here? Oh, they came in for low back pain, but actually they're here because, they're incredibly depressed. And they're not, they can't feel their body anymore. And maybe they lost feeling to get the cues along the way before it became way through the threshold that led to this excruciating back pain.
Right.
Oh, they're here to connect. Well, my work, the way it looks to connect is chiropractor. I work with my hands. So through touch, through mindfully connecting into intentional spots on the body that are presenting as areas of rapport, which means areas that have, the tension and tone that are loading in the system as a point for access to bring the mind back into the body wherever I'm touching to help start to dissipate whatever is locked, stored, harnessed, restricted, constricted in that area. Let it start to dissipate the charge and let the body do that through a deep connection, which comes through different gradients of touch that is applied to areas of access. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because if you don't, there's, we've talked about it before, but there's all those things like the books of like The Body Keeps the Score and
Bruce Lipton's book, Biology of Belief is so lovely.
Yeah.
there's more.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. And so you find what works for you, because like your body does hold things and you do have to release them and move them through. And I mean, it goes back to the vibration of that when we started talking about, like, because the nonverbal is, if you don't think if people don't think like the communication is nonverbal, one, try going through the day not really speaking for a day. But two, you can feel someone's energy. So even before you kind of get to talking to them, all of that stuff that you're feeling before is all of that.
Absolutely.
It's the energy, it's the vibration, it's you're picking up on like the subtle clues of their body. And it's amazing things to learn.
Yeah, and to maybe make it like a little bit more tangible, like how we can read each other's energy. Like, you know, from across the room, you can see if someone's pissed off. And you're like, oh man, I'm not going to get close to that individual. Or if they're walking to you because you're about to meet them, your indicators are already up. Like, whoa, something happened in that person's day. Because your body, like you can see it and you feel it. And likewise, when someone's like, you know, super joyful and like, wow, that person had a great day. What happened in your day today? Like, what coffee are you drinking? Like, what's going on? You know,
right.
what is swirling in your reality? Because like you are glowing, right? Like we pick up on these things. And there's actually like a beautiful, I can't remember where I've seen this chart, but it shows like the energy systems correlated to different energy. So it has picture of like cut out a silhouette of a body, and it has the different energy like qualities named under these, like happy, angry, sad, depressed, in love, hate, I don't know, just like different emotions, right? Grieving. And then it shows the heat temperature read of the body.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I can't remember like what they use to. Someone who's listening to this, they probably know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the heat.
Where's our Jamie? No.
Yeah, we need Jamie. Google that. Siobhan, get a Jamie.
I will try.
We'll just bring a computer next time. We can just look things up quickly. We do have a screen here. That could be cool. Anyway, so you can like see the energy and the reflection of hot and cold. There's also other types of photography called Kirlian photography, and this shows the biophotons. So cool. So photon is light, so light emission. Bio is living system, right? So body is a living system. So biophotons, the light that is emitted in a body. And David Avocado Wolf, everyone's favorite raw vegan, he did this with food. So he photographed food, and you could see like cooked food versus not cooked food, meat versus vegetables, and like the different biophoton release using Kirlian photography. Anyway, so Kirlian photography has been used to like take the image of like a thumbprint or something, like not a thumbprint, but like the thumb, like what's being emitted from a thumb when two people are kissing or two people are thinking angry thoughts and in a fight. And anyway, it's interesting to see that you can see the energy as expressed through heat. Like heat is a form of energy, right? So.
Oh, that's cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So is the
biophotons.
Biophotons, is that also what, when someone talks about auras, is that similar?
Yeah,
or is
similar.
Because I'm wondering, like, are they different colors? Or is it just the temperature?
Well, colors have to do with different, so we think about energy, it's a particle that has a wave, it goes up and down, and then the frequency is how fast, like how close together those up and downs go off of like a line chart through space, right? And then also like the amplitude, how high or how low it's moving through time. So different colors, the colors have different, what we call colors, because of the different energetic imprint that's moving through it. So I don't know if that helps.
I'm just wondering
expand the conversation or makes it more confusing.
No, I'm just wondering how those, like, if when someone talks about like, because there are people that will take pictures of your aura,
right?
So I'm wondering if they use that same.
I don't know enough about that discipline to speak to
either.
like or photo taking. I don't know enough about it.
Mm-mm.
I know
I finally found something that you don't know anything about.
I don't know about that. I don't know those. Who are you? You out there?
Well, I will find someone.
Yeah, find those people. Let's find those people.
We can learn about that.
Yeah, let's find those people.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to have to end this, although I don't want to stop talking to you ever.
I know. We're always going to find reasons to talk.
Yes. But thank you so much. Thanks for teaching us, and thanks for being you. And you can find, if you're in the East Bay, you can come see Dr. Alandi.
Yeah, in Pleasant Hill, California,
Yeah.
and also San Francisco. So I work at North Point Chiropractic, which is owned and envisioned by Dr. Eric Rubin. I'm there 2 days a week, Monday, Fridays, and then my office out here in Pleasant Hill, Tuesday, Thursdays. I have some online stuff available too. If people have questions or anything, please reach out. Alandi Stec, dc@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I put out a lot of content on my Instagram. My handle is dr.alandistek. Yeah, reach out with questions. It's
Yeah.
good to have a dialogue. So,
True.
Siobhan, thank you for creating this podcast. It's been an amazing joy to watch this, the idea of the podcast get, I guess, the seed planted and then a little watered and a little bit more watered, and whoa, it's definitely growing. So it's amazing to see your vision come to life and the inspiration which is driving your vision forward. And I feel really honored to be on your podcast, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So
Thank
yeah.
you. It's been an honor to have you. And thanks for coming into my life and helping me to learn and grow and get the confidence to do all the things I'm doing.
It's amazing.
Thanks.
Thank
All right,
you.
y'all, you go find some joy today, and we'll talk to you soon.